Wrote this song while crewing Aaron on a 100-mile foot race through the trails in the rain and mud. How about that? One hundred miles to go. 100 miles to go. Don't ask me why I do it, I don't know. One hundred miles by foot. 100 miles by foot. Don't ask me why I do it, I can't stay put. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Don't ask me why I do it, but I am legit.
Hey everybody, welcome to the MR Runningpains podcast. This is Aaron Saft here. Today I'm going to talk about coaching, my experience, what you could look for in a coach, why you should have a coach, all those questions I'm going to dive into and talk about today on the podcast. I have had the pleasure of coaching a number of athletes over the years. I started myself coaching around the year 2000, and it's so funny because one of my former athletes that I coached when he was in high school, back when I finished my graduate degree from NC State, I was coaching just outside of Raleigh, and I had this young man. He was a great 800-meter runner, really fast turnover. His dad was super speedy. I believe he was probably going to make the Olympic team the year we boycotted the Olympics. So just a really awesome young man. And I did a Zoom conference, which I talked about coaching, and he happened to listen in and reached out to me afterwards and wanted to seek out some coaching for half marathon training, which was awesome. So we reconnected after all these years. But it just came full circle. So I was very, very excited about that, to be working with him again. So yeah, I started coaching back in around let's see, did I say 1990? Excuse me. It was around 2000. Around the year 2000. Started running in 1990 and started coaching in the year 2000. And that was at the high school level. And then, I coached adults as I started progressing in my coaching career. And about 2 years ago, I kind of got back into really coaching adults again, and diving into learning more about coaching and how to get the most out of an athlete, what works, what doesn't work, some exercise physiology and learning some of that through different courses and accreditations. And hopefully at some point when maybe things get back to a little bit more normal for us, I'd like to go back to college for some more education in that realm. But anyhow, that's my background. The best certification that I have so far is from the UESCA. It's a great certification in coaching, very encompassing. Jason Koop endorses it. He's actually helping them with a ultra running certification, coaching certification, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to take that as soon as that's available, and doing some online courses right now for coaching and learning from some other not only coaches but physical therapists and exercise physiologists again that have some really good knowledge of not only of coaching but of the body, how it works, biomechanics. So I'm a sponge right now, just trying to absorb as much as I can, learn as much as I can, figure out what's best for the athletes I coach. I've got near 50 athletes right now, and it's a joy. I've got people that are really just looking to kind of get back into running and just want to run a 5K, which is awesome. I love that type of runner, and their excitement, their enthusiasm, and the challenges that come with that. There's a lot of challenges when you're coming back to running after a hiatus. And I have obviously the other end of the spectrum as well. I coach ultra runners, which you don't find a lot of coaches that are going to coach that broad of a spectrum. I myself, for those of you that don't know, I have a background. I ran at NC State, so I was a cross country and track runner. 4:08 in the mile is my PR. I was a steeplechaser. Ran 8:54 was my best steeple, and cross country 8K. I was a 23:30 8K runner. Ran the marathon post-collegiately. My PR is 2:27:36, I believe, at the Richmond Marathon. And I've run up to 100 miles in sub 20 hours. I ran 19 something or other at the Chattanooga 100. So I've got a variety of experience, and that's something we're kind of touch on. As I've run everything in between as well. Half marathon, I've run 1:08. So I don't say all that to brag. I just say it to let you know that I have experience in running at all ends of the spectrum. I was a 14:35 5K runner. So it's I have experience with every distance. So I know how to train for those distances. I've learned through a bunch of different coaches. That's the other part of this. I've been running for 30 years. So I've had a number of coaches and seen a variety of different training methodologies, read numerous other coaches' philosophies and training. And if I were to say I had I was on a run the other day and a friend asked me, like, what would my philosophy on coaching be? And that's a great question. And mine is that running should be a joy. You should find joy in running. And training along that, that journey should be 90% of your running. It's just that finding that joy in that, and having a great time along the way to your goal. And that training isn't a cookie cutter plan. I can't say that I can follow one methodology. I can say that I implement numerous methodologies from various coaches that I've learned from, and taken pieces from each, but I can't say there's a certain way I want to train somebody. Like, for instance, I take stuff from Jack Daniels, and I take stuff from Matt Fitzgerald. We were talking about this with another one of my athletes the other day. I'll pull things from Joe Vigil, Paul Fitzinger. So, I mean, there's, like I said, millions of different ways to train athletes out there. Pete Fitzinger, excuse me. There's infinite ways to train people. And it's finding what works for the athlete. I think that's what the goal should be, is finding what works for the athlete and making sure that they're getting what they want out of their training and racing. Listening to the athlete and making sure that I learn from them what hasn't worked in the past so I don't replicate that same mistake. And then it may take a while for me to get to know the athlete. It's very difficult for a coach to take on an athlete who is specifically training for one race, and gives that coach 4 months with them, and does the race, and that's it. It's a process with each other, to learn from each other, to learn about each other, to make sure that what we're doing is working. You hope you get it right off the bat, but we may have to make some changes. And as you get to learn the athlete, it's easier to train that athlete and see how they respond to various stimulus. So, you have to be open to that. And if you have something that works, that's great as well. Not everyone needs a coach, and we'll talk about that as well. But based on my philosophy, it's basically you should have fun running, and I'm not going to provide a cookie cutter plan for you. You're not going to be the same as even somebody that's training for the same event. We may use some of the same principles, but there are variations that we will include for you that will be, I will include variations for you that will be different from other runners, because you're not all the same. You don't react the same to the same mileage, the same workouts, the same type of cross training. Some people use cross training more than others, and some people use strength training in different ways than others. So we have to find what works for you and make it all work together. And that's kind of my job as a coach. So why does someone look for a coach? Well, there are obviously a number of reasons why you might look for a coach and seek help from someone else. It may be for accountability, to have somebody looking over your shoulder and making sure that you're doing your training and getting your training in for your event. It may be that you want to get faster. Everybody wants to, at least meet cutoffs in ultras. So a coach can help you achieve that, make you fast enough to get through the cutoffs. So, there's a billion different reasons. Sometimes people look to coaches to help them stay healthy, and I caution people that are seeking them. If it's because they are doing too much and they need to have the reins pulled back, that's one thing. But if you're constantly injured, it may take someone that's more medically qualified to help with that sort of injury prevention. It may be seeking the help of a physical therapist, to help remedy what is the repetitive nature of the injury that's causing it. Now, when I start with an athlete, I like to start with a video analysis of the runner's gait and see their gait and how they're running, so that I can see if there's anything I see off the bat that maybe we can work on some efficiencies. Also like to see some functional movements. And kind of do a functional movement screening, so that I can see if there's anywhere where we have immobility or lack of strength, things that we can work on there. And those things aren't to say that I can fix those, or a coach can fix those. Again, sometimes we have to rely on a physical therapist to say, well, it's this muscle that's not firing, and we need to do these type of exercises to remedy that. But if there's something blatantly obvious that's going on, we can certainly try to work on it together. And if we can't manage it, then we can refer it out to a specialist. So it's good to have a team as a coach. That may be something you look into, and say, do you have people you can refer me to? And if they're out of the area, then it may be that we have to seek a professional in that area, or find a good reference to somebody in that area. Because not all of my athletes live, in the general vicinity of where I live. So, my team, I have a good physical therapist on my team in Miriam. Miriam was on the podcast, and we have a nutritionist who's also been on the podcast. So I try to build those as reference points for the athletes so that if they do have a specific question that's beyond my knowledge, then I can refer them to someone who can answer that question. I think that's something a lot of coaches don't do, is they try to answer questions they are not qualified to answer. So we have to know our boundaries, especially when it comes to injuries. As a coach, when something happens, we're not supposed to go beyond recommending ice it. That's the only thing as a coach we are really qualified to do. Unless, of course, that coach is, a medical professional, a physical therapist, be it whatever it may be. So it depends on what you're looking for. And that's all part of the coaching, is that, look for a coach specific to your needs. Are you looking for someone that can help you with nutritional habits? Nutritional habits. So, there are coaches that have that qualification and can help you with that and guide you through that. So, there are limitations to certain coaches. Mine is I'm a running coach. Beyond that, I have to refer out. When people start asking me certain questions, I have to say I'm not qualified for that. I know what I do, but that's not necessarily what's going to work for you. So I need you to, to seek, other avenues to figure that out. What should somebody look for in a coach? Well, it depends on what you like. I like communication. So myself personally, and with my coach, I like the feedback. Daily feedback is great. I prefer that. And someone kind of looking at my training and adjusting as necessary. That's something I believe in my coaching as well. Is that we're looking at what's going on, and that if something pops up in life, we need that ability to adapt and change. During the week. Or if things aren't going accordingly, then we need to kind of switch gears and make sure that we're getting the runner on the right track. That's communication is key to me. I would say that's one of the biggest things that I want in a coach, is the ability for them to communicate. Another thing is looking at data and providing the feedback on that data and basing the training off that data. Some coaches kind of hand you a plan, and that works for some people. They're not as concerned with the data, but if you are, then you need to find a better match for you. What else can we look at? Looking for in a coach. Well, I would say, just ask questions about what you're looking for. Ask them, do you feel this is something that you can do? Or is this something you feel capable of? Like myself, as I said, I've got a varying degree of races that I've done. I've done road races, I've done cross country races, I've done track races, I've done mountain races, I've done trail races. So, if somebody was like, do you feel comfortable coaching me in a mountain race? Yes, I would say yes, I would. But if they came to me and were like, do you feel comfortable in coaching me for obstacle course racing? I mean, I have one athlete that does from time to time. And, we kind of, we made really good work of what little knowledge I have of obstacle course racing. I would not say that's one of my strengths. He was comfortable with the training I was providing and how his results were coming out, but that's definitely not one of my strengths. So when you go to a coach, if you're training for something specific, ask them, do you feel comfortable with this? Do you have experience coaching these type of people? Do you have personal experience so that, you can ask questions? Those are all really important things when you're looking for a coach. What happens if you're not getting the results that you're looking for? Well, if you are communicating and the coach isn't changing or doing what you're asking, in other words, if If the coach isn't holding himself or herself accountable, then you need to say, listen, like, I'm not getting what I want out of this. I really expected to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Now, again, those have to be realistic. You have to be realistic with your goals. If you're, let's say you're a 4:30 marathoner and you want to run 3:30. I mean, is there anything that points or indicates that you should be able to run 3:30? If not, then, you have to be realistic with that. And the coach also has to be realistic in his communication with your expectations, whether they're realistic or not. So, first we have to establish that up front. If that hasn't been established up front, then, that's another story. That's really should be one of the first conversations you have is, here's my goals. Here's what I expect. Do you think this is feasible? And, if that is established, and both parties are in agreement that it's fulfillable and you're not getting those results, then it needs to be reanalyzed. What transpired over the course of the training that potentially led to that failure in the results. It could have been that life happened, Corona happened, right? But if it's a normal circumstance where you put in the training and just did not get the results, then, you need to communicate that to the coach and say, listen, I feel kind of disappointed in my results. I think in training, I upheld my end of the bargain, but, I didn't get the end result that I expected. Now, at that point, it's up to you and the coach to decide whether you want to further that relationship or end it. I've had, like I said, I've had so many coaches over my running career that, for one reason or another, we've dissolved the relationship. Some just did not listen to myself when I was giving feedback. They just kept loading and loading and loading the schedule. And I was just like, I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I can't handle this load. I need it to come down. And, even if we changed it, it still felt like things just weren't there. So, that at that point, I said, I think it's best if we just, ended this relationship. So, some coaches have contracts that you sign when you sign on to work with them. I definitely encourage you to just read through those carefully and make sure you understand what is being expected of you, and what that contract states. Some coaches can put in there that you will be with them for, X amount of time. I don't have a contract with my runners. I'm of the opinion if things aren't working and you don't feel like you're getting what you need out of the training, I don't want you to be stuck in something. So, make sure you understand what you're signing when you sign on with a coach. Be careful with that. If you are planning on having a coach, a good thing to do is just to make sure that whatever you're training for, especially if it's a new distance, for instance, if you are looking to move up into the ultra world, that you have just medical approval. So, seek your primary care physician and ask them, is it okay if I train for this? Am I physically capable of training for this? Is there anything that, my coach should know about, that's going on that potentially could be harmful to me, in either the training or in the actual race itself? These are all things you should bring to the table as well. Don't ever hide anything from your coach, especially injuries. That's never something that you want to hide from a coach. If something is, it's nagging you, if you feel something and it's inhibiting you from either running properly, so it's hampering your stride or your form, or it's preventing you from finishing a run or a workout, please let them know. Don't try to hide that from them. Don't just tell them, yeah, I got it done, I'm good. Let's make sure that you either take some time off or go see somebody to make sure that you're okay and that there is, a protocol to follow to hopefully resolve the situation. And then, if you decide to go with a coach, you don't always need a coach forever. That it depends on your goals. Again, it's hard to just give that coach 4 months time and expect something to happen. I mean, that happens. You can do it for sure. But it's good to have slightly longer, long-term, expectations, or a long-term session with a coach, so that you can build that relationship. You can build your training. You get used to the training. To make those adaptations so quickly, unless you are already coming off of, a training program, which, you had success, let's say at like 10K, half marathon or marathon, let's say you had that success there, and just want to shave off just a little bit of time to maybe make like a Boston qualifier or something in that regard. In those cases, yeah, you can hire a coach for shaving off that little bit of time. But, the reality is that you can stick with them like longer term, but you don't always need a coach. At some point, you may say, I'm good. I've gone through, what I want to do. I kind of just want to enjoy running for a while. You can take a break, come back to coaching. And like I said before, not everybody needs a coach or wants a coach. You may be perfectly fine training the way you are. And, that's totally fine as well. I've had times where I just said, listen, I need to step away. I feel like I'm just putting too much thought and time into my training and devoting it into this training plan, and I just feel fried. And at that point, it's good to step away. I may take like a little break and just do some running and enjoy running for a little while, and then say, hey, listen, I'm ready to get back into it, and jump back on board. Maybe with the same coach, maybe with a different coach, just depending on what you want. I always try to have conversations with my athletes and make sure that mentally that they're staying in it and happy and fresh. When we get to an end of a training cycle, I want to make sure that they have time to unload, decompress. They can go through how the end of the season went for them. Analyze how the season went, what they liked, what they didn't like. We can have a conversation about that kind of thing, and then I let them take a little break there. They can just do a little bit of running, cross training, and then we'll pick back up and kind of get back onto the next goal. But I want them ready. I want them mentally and physically fresh and ready to go. So we're kind of at that point right now. I'm recording this on June 3rd, and this will launch on June 4th. And this weekend I'm kind of hosting a small event for my runners, just a timed event right from my house. We're just doing loops from my house, just to let them kind of have an end of season, if you will. Because obviously most of our races have been canceled or postponed. So, those athletes are coming over, and we're having a 6, 12, and 24-hour event here, and just allowing them to kind of finish out the season. And then, we're going to hit a reset button for a lot of them. Some of them will continue and have just a few more, end of season things. We've had some really awesome things going on lately. Coaching doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to have a goal race in mind. One of my athletes just PR'd at the marathon, and we're trying to get him down even further. This was somebody that was initially training for the Hellbender 100, and now is, has a different focus, which is awesome. And we're trying to get that marathon time down. So, goals change, and it doesn't necessarily need a race to do so. I have another runner that's, going to run, her marathon. We're just doing kind of a one on the roads, just, near her house, and letting her do it, and get out there and still have her event, have support from her family and friends, not make it huge, but, just give her the resources we can to hopefully help her succeed and reach that goal. One of my gentlemen I just posted on Facebook just completed Pitchell, the run from Mount Pisgah to Mount Mitchell, which is around 100K and about 16,000 feet of climbing. He had the goal of running sub 24, and he just did it. And I have 2 athletes that started today, the Appalachian Trail section of the Smokies, which is known as SCAR, roughly somewhere between 70 and 75 miles. One's going in for an FKT on it. It's like I said, these are things that we just started coming up with. I have another athlete that came up with a loop around Asheville that's going to be 50K, but incorporates north, west, south, and east Asheville, and just a huge loop. So, I mean, just really cool things that people are coming up with, not necessarily FKTs, just goals that they want to do and train for. So these are the things we're doing right now. So, even though races aren't happening, these guys are still training and doing things. And like I said, going after, times for themselves. I'm helping in whatever way I can. If I can get out there, I went out and saw my friend that was doing Pitchell yesterday. If I can help out with the young ladies marathon, I'll be there for her. I'm there to pace and crew and help in whatever way I can as well. So that's me as a coach. I'm involved at that capacity. I want to be there for my athletes and be engaged, be involved. I've had a lot of phone calls with each of them talking about how they're doing right now, what they're thinking, and having backup plans because, obviously we still have fall races that are on the schedule. We don't know whether they're going to happen or not, so we have fallbacks. Myself personally, I'm pretty sure the 50K Trail Championships in New Hampshire, we got an email, and it's most likely going to not happen. So, I'm going to run the Art Lobe and try to get an FKT on the Art Lobe, which is roughly 50K and about 8,000 to 9,000 feet of gain. And I'm declaring that right now. So we're just doing stuff like that, stuff that we want to do. And so having a coach doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a race goal. It can be just you want to attempt a new distance. It can be that you just want to get back in shape and have that structure to get back to running and training. So don't feel like a coach is just there as someone to get you to a goal race. A coach is there and should be there to kind of, help guide you, provide ideas, support those ideas, and, make running enjoyable and get you into the shape that you want to be in. Whether that be, like I said, just to be able to go out and enjoy running daily or, to be able to go out and run whatever distance you want to run. And, so it's a good time right now, to kind of reach out and learn about, each other, what your goals are. If we're a correct fit, I'm not always a correct fit. I'm honest. Like if you're looking for something specific, like I talked about earlier, I have my hangups. I have areas where I'm not as strong, and I know that, and I will communicate that. If you're looking for something specific, I'll say, listen, I'm probably not the right person for that. If I can help you find something, I just had a friend that was, looking for something very specific in a coach, and I said, let's look together. Let's figure out what's going to be best for you. Yeah, so I mean, personal friend. I'd love to coach him, but at the same time, I know I'm probably not the best fit for what he's looking for. So, be open. Look around. If you haven't considered it in the past, it's something just worth a conversation. And it may be just a simple email. Just kind of reach out to me. You're welcome to reach out to me in any way. My email is runningpains, RUNNINGPAINS @gmail.com. Well, and we can see what it looks like for you, and if it's right for you. We'll follow it up with a phone conversation so that we can ask questions of each other, and just kind of figure out what you're looking for. So, I had a few other questions that I answered on the Zoom conference, and just wanted to kind of touch base on those. There's one of the questions was what's typical bad habits that I help iron out. And I mean, if you listen to podcasts or if you read any of the running publications of late, the biggest thing is recovery. And are we doing our recovery properly? Okay, so these are things that I look a little deeper on. I ask all my athletes to talk about, each day, record and I use Training Peaks as my platform. Record in there how much sleep you got the night before, what your resting pulse rate was when you woke up. I want to make sure that you're recovering. And, I make my athletes take their rest days seriously. So we have days where you may take a complete day off. We have other days where we may do some miles, but they're at a really easy pace. And I'll say, like, listen, that looked like it was a little bit harder than what it should have been. And let's make sure that those days are what they should be. And so, that's one of the major things that I see is making sure that runners recover, because I think we can be thinking that we're using our recovery days as we should, but the reality is sometimes we're still going too hard. So that's the number one thing that I always try to iron out of my athletes is as a bad habit. And then. We talk about practicing fluid intake and nutrition. We talked about nutrition, back. I'm sorry, I forget what episode we had it back in, but we talk about nutrition and practicing nutrition on the run, especially now as it heats up. Focusing on hydration, making sure that you're drinking. We don't. I'm not a coach that's going to tell you what to eat on a daily basis. Again, that's beyond my scope and beyond my certification. So I'm more saying, like, when you go out to run, making sure that you get 200 calories in per hour. We're looking at how many grams of carbohydrates you're getting, and then what you're drinking, how much you're drinking, just so we make sure that we have success for you as it heats up here in the summer, and as you train for whatever it may be. So, then what book reflects my mindset as a coach? I thought that was a really good question, and I can't really say that there's one book that kind of nailed my philosophy. As I said, I've read so many books, and I don't think there's one that kind of I can say, yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking, and how I want to train my athletes. I guess I would have to write my own book and talk about what I believe, because I really enjoyed David Roche's book, The Happy Runner. I thought he had some great principles in there, and I love the fact that he wants to make sure that every runner is enjoying it and knows that they're happy. David's my coach, so I think that was a great book. But like I said, I pull so many ideas from so many of the other books. I'm looking up at my bookshelf right now, and I mean, I have I have too many books. Lore of Running by Tim Noakes, The Daniels Running Formula, Jack Daniels, Training for the Uphill Athlete, The Science of Running by Steve Magnus, Training Essentials for Ultra Running by Jason Koop. I mean, there's a ton up there. I mean, I'm reading a book right now by I think it's Peter Coe and David Martin, Training for Distance Runners. That's who trained Sebastian Coe, one of the best 800-meter runners of maybe even ever. Just I have so many books. I have Lydiard up there, Arthur Lydiard. I mean, there's so many different books and ideas out there. But I love the just kind of pulling principles from each of them. So very cool. And then I guess the other thing is, why would a coach have a coach? That seems kind of counterintuitive, but I like having someone else looking over mine. I tend to be a little bit blindsided, and I tend to run too many miles just because I just love running that much that I'll go out there and, I'll start running 120-mile weeks, and all of a sudden I'll be like, wow, I'm really tired. I'm really fatigued. And I don't pull myself back just because I enjoy running that much. I'll look back and I'll be like, wow, I did, 50K 4 weekends in a row. I just, I get carried away. So it's good to have somebody else holding me accountable. So yes, I have a coach. And I've been, like I said, I've been bounced off of so many different coaches. David has been a good fit for me. He's kind of, we had a great conversation. I liked his philosophy. We've been working well together. So, I mean, it's kind of, again, going back to what we're looking for in a coach. Yeah, I mean, it's really, I can understand it's tough right now to even talk about coaching because again, a lot of our races are kind of up in the air, but hopefully this gives you kind of a perspective as to maybe even thinking about a coach, whether it be in the future or even starting to think about having a coach one day soon. Again, it may not be me. And that's okay too. I just want to make sure that people understand the idea and principle and what you should be looking for in a coach and what a coaches can offer. So, we're going to keep this one a little bit shorter this week. I want to just take a moment here and say my heart goes out to everything going on in the world right now. The protests, that the solidarity that we stand united. I also I want to take a moment and just give my grief to those that have passed due to COVID. So I'm just going to take a moment here of silence and just show my respect for those. Yes, it's a tough world right now, and I'm glad to be able to start to see my friends and my family, cautiously, obviously, but as human beings we need each other, and I'm glad I have you all, and if you need me, just reach out. I appreciate your time, appreciate your ears. And my love to all. And I'll look forward to talking to you next time.